Thank you for tuning in to Ungentrified with Kent Johnson. Ungentrified takes an unfiltered view on pop culture, music, television and film, politics, current events, and topics central to the worldwide Black community. Ungentrified is a safe audio space for celebrating Black culture in its purest form. All right, thank you for joining another episode of Ungentrified. Of course, this is your host, Kent Johnson, and I have a good friend and a dope guest with me today. But before we get into who that is, we got some things to talk about. So I haven't done this in a while in the last few episodes because we hadn't had the time. But I think today, the current event actually ties in with what we'll be discussing. So this morning, I think we just got news of Arthur Mitchell's passing, which is of major importance to you. Is that right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I didn't know too much about Arthur's like crazy history until this morning, until I started reading about it. It was like I knew pieces of it, but not the full scope of the stuff that he went through, being like the first Black member of, I forget the
Black principal.
Yeah.
In New York City Ballet.
Yeah. So I was reading about how like when they would get, the company would get invited to do shows, they would ask that he not participate. And in many of those cases, the company stood up for him. But it was crazy things that he went through. But ultimately, he went on to open up the
Dance Theater of Harlem in New York City. So it's like, Arthur Mitchell legacy is a legacy that's rich and full of not just dance spirit, but human spirit. He was a trailblazer, a pioneer, a visionary, just a great person. I never met him personally, but I've been in his presence. And just to be around someone so statuesque, so strong, so powerful, so adored, it felt like, I was fanning over, a Michael Jackson or someone. He's a Michael Jackson of the dance world. And, to know his story of being the first Black principal, one of the first Black principals in New York City Ballet in the 50s, which was a very white company at that time. He set the standard and set the mold, and just imagine being a Black man in the 50s, but being a Black male dancer in a predominantly white company during that time.
Right.
Just all the things that he endured was it's just powerful what he was able to withstand, and then to go on to create one of America's most prominent dance companies, the Dance Theater of Harlem. It's just such a great legacy and a huge loss to not only the dance community, but the world.
Yeah, it's crazy to learn that he had really tried to introduce a lot of people to a lot of different types of dance and was shot down initially. And that was what ultimately led to him opening up the Dance Theater of Harlem. So yeah, I'm actually interested now in learning more about his legacy just based off of today, and how timely it was for you and I to be having this conversation today. And I knew that was of major importance to you, but we're going to pin that because that really opens up the rest of our conversation. You guys are probably wondering who I've been talking to for the last couple of minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. So go ahead and tell the people who you are.
My name is Anthony Burrell. I'm a dancer, choreographer, actor, father, philanthropist, go-getter, and new director, owner of Anthony Burrell Center for Dance, which I recently opened up this month in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, so shout out to Black businesses opening up and you doing things. And thank you for laying out your whole list of accomplishments, because in all of the interviews I've done, I've learned that people are afraid to speak on the things that they have done. So thank you for doing that. But the reason why I have Anthony here is because he's got a great legacy of his own, and I really wanted to share that with those who listen to the show and to inspire people who may be thinking of going in that similar path, and just to learn more about what got you to today. So it was, like I said, very timely that we could talk about Arthur and his history at the same time. But before we get into the main discussion, one thing I ask everybody on the show is what's on their radar at the moment. So that could be a Netflix series you're binging, like what's your current jam? What book are you reading? Like what's on your radar right now? What's your main thing?
My radar, what's on my radar? I always have to say everything Anthony Burrell Center for Dance. You know, becoming a first-time business owner is not necessarily something you can just, you know, look at the cake box directions and make a cake.
Right.
You know, there's so many different trials that I'm facing in the beginning stages. So it's like I'm not really a TV watcher. I'm not really, you know, a series like Game of Thrones, Netflix type of situation. But I have immersed myself into grant writing, you know, looking up just different things for my structure, my business structure. So I've dived into lynda.com and tried to find everything free that I can to help me be a better businessman.
I know that struggle.
Yeah.
Even like I have 2 businesses, but even years in, I'm still learning and trying to figure it out because a lot of times the path isn't laid for us. And then when you're going into specific fields and there's not a lot of examples of people in our community who have done it, you feel kind of lost. So I know what you're going through right now.
Well, there's a lot of people in my community that I respect that are doing it, and I've watched them struggle. And I don't know what made me want to still follow in those people's footsteps, but it's my love and my passion that's withstanding and allowing me to take this leap of faith, you know, leaving Hollywood as, you know, a top choreographer there and coming to Atlanta, the middle of the hood, and opening up a center for dance it has nothing to do with like anything else but my love and my heart for what I do.
So do you have a jam at the moment? Like, what are you listening to right now?
What's my favorite jam right now? Anything Jasmine Sullivan, man. Like anything, like I wake up to her. Like I'm like a super fan. Like I've never really fanned out over like even under the artists I work with, and I've worked with some amazing icons, but someone with her tone, her texture, her grit, her passion, it's just synonymous. It's like synonymous with my dance, and I just feel like it's so raw, but it's so real, and it's so tangible when I hear her sing. So anything Jasmine Sullivan, like I've been bumping her Insecure song from the Insecure soundtrack for like the last 9 months, every day, 5 times a day.
So you get stuck on stuff like
I get stuck on one song. That's how I create and choreograph. Like once I hear it, I start seeing it in my mind. Like I start seeing colors, I start seeing structure, I start seeing, you know, things that movement when I hear the song, you know.
Was that synesthesia? I think that's what it's called. Like when you see sounds or things associated with like
synesthesia.
Yeah, I think it's synesthesia.
Okay, I have to just check that out.
Yeah. Because Kanye says that he suffers from it. Like when he sees certain things, he can see the sounds in them. I think Pharrell says he has it too. Like,
but it's sometimes like I get, you know, not that I feel weird when it happens, is that I totally kirk out when it does. Like, and people can talk to me, and then I hear a song, and I can just be looking right at you, but it's absent because I'm like creating, and I'm like I visualize. Like it's so vivid though. It's so vivid and so clear in my mind what I see. So yeah, I'm sure it looks crazy when someone's talking to me, and I just like kind of go off into this like blank, eerie space.
Yeah, let's see what's on my radar right now. So I do watch Netflix heavy. So the thing that I've been into is these little series of mini documentaries that Netflix is doing.
Have you? Yeah, I've recently watched one. It's about about Black consciousness. It's about Black consciousness. And it goes through like every episode is completely different, and just basically puts.
Are you talking about Random Acts of Flyness?
Yeah.
On HBO? Yeah. I just watched the season finale a couple days ago.
That show is deep, bro. It's so deep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I had started watching it a few weeks back, and then I waited so I could have like episodes to watch in one fell swoop. But yeah, I finished it. Yeah, that was really dope, and I've been telling everybody to watch that. The show I've been watching recently on Netflix is called Follow This, and what they do is it's actually BuzzFeed who's doing these mini docs, and they link up with one of the writers there and kind of cover a story that they're working on that may be inspired by social media. So the episodes I've seen so far were about ASMR. So, you know, like the pickle lady, have you seen those videos? Yeah. So they do like this deep dive into like the history of ASMR and where it came from. And that really is like an internet phenomenon.
That's some weird stuff.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
You can cuss.
No, that's some weird shit.
Yeah. So it was dope to see that. The second one was about Afro survivalism. So when you hear like the doomsday people, like the tinfoil kind of folks, you think of like white people, right? So this Black chick from London who is a writer for BuzzFeed started looking into the Black like doomsday people. So that one was really interesting. It was this lady who was like, she called herself the Afro survivalist. So she's like, Black people just don't have the capabilities. Like if shit were to go down, like if a nuclear thing were to happen, we would not be capable to handle it anymore. She was like, we used to be able to because we used to be farmers and things like that. But once we moved into the city, we lost a lot of that capability. So she's out there trying to get people situated. And then the other guy was based in New York. He was more centered around like escaping the city. Like if something were to go down in the city, this is how you get out. But it was really interesting to see like their perspectives on Black survivalism in the time of Trump. But these documentaries are like 18 minutes long. So they're really quick, but they're really dope. So that's what I've been watching. As far as what I've been listening to, everybody I know has been talking about this Baz album. Yeah. So I checked it out a couple of days ago. That's kind of been what's in rotation for me. And I don't stick with songs like you do. But in the sense of once I like it, it'll go into rotation, and I just keep like a constant shuffle of all the music I love. So
I think with music is so like subjective now that I'm just not as interested as I am in today's music as I was maybe 10, 15 years ago because of the quality and the textures that music has today. It just doesn't inspire me, and it doesn't touch me and evoke emotion like music should.
So there's this theory, and I'm working on an episode on this. I'm not going to dig into it too much, but there's a theory that when you hit 33, that's kind of like when you have stopped your musical growth. Like you figured out what your musical theme is in life. And it's not saying you don't discover new music, but when you discover new music, it's in the era of music that you have grown up with. And you kind of start to identify your musical taste in your late teens. Because if you think about like all of the songs that really resonate with you or have like that nostalgic value are from like your 13 to kind of 17 age. And those are the ones that like we hold dear to, like 90s R&B and stuff like that. Because that's all in our teenage age group. And when we discover music or when we like songs that are new, they still fall in line with that theme. Yeah. So that's why like people were in love with Boot Up because it reminded them of a certain era. And that's why we can't understand like why
it hits so hard. Like why? It's relative. You relate to that feeling, that nostalgia of that the melodies and like, oh, okay, it feels familiar.
Yeah. So
I get that.
On my iTunes, I have a playlist for every year, right? So every year, like every song that's come out that I've downloaded goes into that playlist. And after I turned 33, the amount of songs that got added got lower and lower with each year, because it was like it's less stuff out there that my ears perk up to for certain things. So that I believe in that theory of 33. They were like, the only thing that changes it is if you have kids, because then what you listen to changes. Like you're listening to children's music when they're younger, and then when they become teens, you get inundated with the stuff that they listen to. So it changes briefly and then it goes back.
Well, when I'm with my daughter, I realized like I'm just not even remotely interested into the songs that she's singing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just so foreign to me. Like, and she's like, yeah, Daddy, this is so and so and so. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's complete trash. You know? And I'm just like, what are you listening to?
Yeah. And it made sense. Like my mom would be like, oh, I like that song. Like out of all the music I would be listening to as a teenager, she would have very specific songs that she liked. And like remembering those, I could see why she liked those. Mm-hmm. They were very reminiscent of when the songs that came out when she was a teenager.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to do it. And the guy who like put the theory together worked at Spotify. So he tracked like all this history of like people's listening habits. But yeah, I'm doing a whole episode about that.
Okay, so I look forward to checking that
out. Yeah, I'm hype about that one. But yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and get back to business at hand. So we opened up today's episode talking about Arthur Mitchell, right? And how profound he was for like who you are today as a dancer. And you brought up the idea of just being a Black man in dance. We're not even going into like the fact that it's in the 50s. Let's just start with being a Black man in dance. Take us back to when you first started and when you first realized that like dance was the thing you wanted to do. Were people surprised well, first off, let's do this. When did you really start expressing yourself dance-wise?
In 5th grade. I was always hip-hoppy around, like doing little community groups. And 5th grade, I will have to say, is where I first started dancing in like little groups around the neighborhood. And that kind of like picked up traction and people started recognizing me in the hood, you know, for band. I was in a group called the South Philly Shakers and just little hip-hop groups. And people took notice and they saw that I had this ability, and my guidance counselor at middle school recommended a performing arts group that was close to me, or a sports camp for a summer program to go to. And the dance camp was starting at 9:30. The sports camp started at 7:30. So I, of course, in the summertime went to the dance camp because I would never make it and barely made it to school at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I chose dance, and, you know, it was just my destiny. You know, it's just like that, something that I just walked into, and it was a perfect fit. And from the first moment in my first dance class, it was instantaneous that I knew that this was going to be my vehicle to get me out of the hood, to take me to the next level in life, the next plateau, my highest plateau in life.
So that dance class, was it hip hop, or was that kind of opening you up to other types of dance?
Well, the program was actually a summer program, which is what I designed my summer program, Breaking Barriers, after. Because, I was a 12, 13-year-old kid in South Philly with huge amount of talent, but no resources and just no support from family and, you know, people around me, especially growing up as a brown boy in the middle of the hood. Like, my grandma was like, you know, cursing me out every goddamn day. Get your goddamn legs off my wall, stretching it. Like, I would, like, you know, I would show them that I loved it, but there was not really any
They didn't know what to do with it.
There was no push. Yeah. There was no push. For one, we didn't have money to buy dance shoes, which were like $65, $45. You know, my grandma was on a fixed income. I grew up with her because my mom wasn't emotionally and physically capable because of drug addiction. And, you know, it was hard. It was hard, definitely, growing up as a male dancer there in Philly. But, you know, having the owners of the facility, Donna and Al Brown, who owned the dance school, the community center that I grew up in, they adopted me because they saw the talent. They saw the, you know, the passion that I exuded for it. And it was just like my therapy. So when I found dance, it became like, you know, without getting too deep in my personal life, you know, it became my outlet, my voice, my scream, my therapist. It was definitely my therapist because I was dealing with so much at that age, from my mother, drug addiction, from me being displaced, moving house to house, family member to family member, child molestation, like all that stuff that took place between 8 and 13. And I found dance at the later part of that, and that actually became like my escape.
So paint the picture for us. Your first ballet class. How did that feel like? Because I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that you were the only black guy, the little black boy in that class when you first took a ballet class.
It was actually 3 of us, 3 black boys in that class, and it wasn't a ballet class. It was actually a modern class. And I didn't have to wear tights, but I was just embarrassed because I would see all these girls in my hood, and they saw me doing something that wasn't deemed as masculine or boyish. And yeah, they literally had to lock me in the building, my guardian, so that I wouldn't leave every day in the summer program, because I was a badass. Like, I was like hopping on the back of buses, robbing cars, like, you know, selling weed at 13. And, you know, at that age, it was like, I loved it, but I couldn't let anyone else know that I loved it. And them locking me in the doors was actually my savior, because I don't know, if they didn't like hold me in that building, I just fear where would Anthony be right now if they weren't as persistent and they weren't as caring as they were.
Did you have anyone at your age to kind of model yourself after? Like, was there, outside of, you know, the Arthur Mitchells of the world, was there anyone in Philly or at this dance studio where you could be like, oh, you know what? They're a few years older than me, and they're, you know, a black dude who is comfortable with dancing and has found his space in this world?
It was actually my mentor, my male figure mentor, the one that started the company Positively to the Point performance group for dancers in high school, and ran out of my school where my adopted parents, Point Breeze Performing Arts Center, that adopted me. They had a school which later on started a company. The director of the company was Arthur Taylor, and he was a brown man, wasn't really a dancer, a musical theater major from college graduate, but he took on the project of creating this youth ensemble. Yeah, he was just really nurturing, really supportive, and just a male figure. You know, there are not too many males in a dance community that aren't overtly flamboyant, or, you know, just, you know, how we depict what dancers are and what they look like and what they should be. He wasn't that. And he became my first example to what a male dancer was.
Right, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I would think, I mean, like you said, when most of us think of a male dancer, we're thinking of the opposite of you.
Skinny white boy.
Sure, yeah, like skinny white boy, very frail, very delicate, almost similar to the girls who would be dancing. Like, we wouldn't see too much of a difference. So here you come in, South Philly, you know,
with a bandana,
rough around the edges, but you found your space in that. Do you think today the younger, you know, black and brown boys have more opportunities to see themselves in this field? Like, is it easier now for them?
I think today the dance has been highlighted in so many facets, from reality TV, Dancing with the Stars. Yeah, we do, because I honestly feel like, you know, the day of Gene Kelly is almost coming back, where dancers are becoming stars again because of the visibility that's on TV, the Dance Moms, that So You Think You Can Dance, the World of Dances. Like, there's so many shows that, you know, are platforms for dancers of all shapes, size, forms, colors. And we see ourselves more in these positions, in these shoes. And we have companies like Alvin Ailey, Philadelphia's company, DTH, Dance Theater of Harlem, that have become haven and houses for a multicultural haven for people that want to be in these predominantly white companies, they've become homes for, you know, dancers that are equally as talented but aren't accepted into these major companies. So yes, there are loads of examples. And yeah, I like to look at myself as an example of that, you know, of a barrier breaker, of a ceiling crasher, because I feel like I've done so many things that a lot of dancers have never done, you know, transcend boundaries of commercial dance world and concert dance world, dancing with Alvin Ailey, going to the top of the commercial dance world, working and choreographing for Beyoncé and the likes of Mariah. So yeah, I think it's a different world in dance today than it was 20 years ago when I started.
Is racism still a big thing in the dance industry?
Racism is a big thing everywhere, and a lot, regardless if we face it or not, it's everywhere, and we're probably some of the most talented, but some of the most rejected and neglected in the business. You know, everyone's intimidated by a strong, powerful Black dancer because it's like the power we possess is just like, it's out of here. The passion, our legacy, our lineage, it exudes through us when we perform and when we dance. And it's something so magnetizing that, you know, you just can't keep your eyes off that little brown dancer. So I understand why they don't want that little brown chocolate chip in their company. You know?
Yeah, and it trips me out when certain industries still hold on to like their racist histories, because on the outside you wouldn't necessarily, or you would assume rather, that they would want all cultures and all kinds of influences in there, because it ultimately makes everyone a better dancer. Like if I get to pull from, you know, what you can bring to the table as far as like your history, and if I can pull from mine and we can create other dope things together, then why not do that? It's like with the travel industry, I tell people all the time that the travel industry fakes on like diversity, but it's a lot of the racist structure is still there. And you would think that, you know, the whole idea of travel is to go see other cultures and experience those things, but they only want that from one point of view. Mm-hmm. You would think that all these different types of dance, they would want all these different, you know, experiences and interpretations of it, and that's just not the case. And so it's imperative that we have like your Dance Theater of Harlem and you know, the ABCD, like these opportunities for people to find their voice or their two-step or whatever it may be. So, all right, take us back to young Anthony, South Philly, first starting to get his situation. What do you feel like was your first big break?
My first big break when I was 14, and the junior company, the student company at Point Breeze Performing Arts Center, was invited by a casting director to New York City to audition for a film. I had no idea what the film was about. I knew I was too young, but they took me anyway. But that was my first moment of like realizing this is what I want to do. This is my way out of here. And from that moment, like I realized that this was my profession. And seeing Alvin Ailey on a videotape for the first time, like maybe weeks before that, my mind was made up that was my destiny. And maybe 3 years later, I was 16, I got an opportunity to perform for Judith Jamison, who was the executive director, artistic director of Alvin Ailey at the time. And she was receiving an award in Philly, and the school was performing at that time, and I choreographed the piece, and I was like, shit, let me do a little solo. You know, this is my chance. So I did the solo before they performed, and she stopped the whole award show, took me outside, and was like, Anthony, I think you have what it takes. You know, we have audition in a couple of weeks. You should come up. And yeah, it's like I got so many big breaks. You know, I feel like God has really put his hands on me with this dance thing and placed the right people in my life at the right time. You know, so I have so many breaks like that. Like, I have so many. Yeah, I don't understand why a lot of this has happened, but it just like literally falls on my lap. And I'm just like, okay, Lord, I'll take it. What you got for me this year, this week? You know, so it's like, so I have a lot of big breaks, you know, from meeting Judith Jamison at that awards event to meeting, you know, my inspiration, Desmond Richardson, calling the dancers at Alvin Ailey and saying, oh, Beyonce's choreographer is looking for a 6-foot guy dancer. So on my lunch break, I went over and met him at Radio City Hall and auditioned. I was hired then, and Frank Gatson is one of the reasons why I've escalated in this industry as rapidly as I did. Him introduced me to Beyoncé, and her embracing me and accepting me and taking me under her wing for as long as she has, and just being seen by her created so much visibility. Everybody wanted to work with me during that time when she first started her solo career. So I've definitely had a lot of breaks, and I hope to keep finding these breaks,
So, okay. So you sped us up a little bit. You brought us to your Beyonce era, but like, what was the moment, and it may not even be with B, but when was the moment where you were like, damn, like this is it. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in life right now. Like, I know your big break may have felt like that, but like, how sometimes you got that moment, you're like, this is everything it's supposed to be. What was that moment for you?
Choreographing for Mariah, creative directing her show. I remember as a kid at like 15, we used to do this Christmas show at the airport every year. And we would dance to like one of her Mariah Carey's Christmas songs.
It was All I Want for Christmas?
Well, no, actually it was the Fantasy remix.
Oh, okay.
And we were like playing like almost like an urban nutcracker. And we had all the different characters like the ballerina, just everything that all the characters that the Nutcracker embodied. We put that in this 12-minute dance of Mariah Carey's Fantasy song. And when I got the opportunity to choreograph and creative direct her show, I used that same song. And it was nice because it was almost 20 years later, and it was like, this is full circle. This is like, wow, like, this is crazy. It was crazy, being able to be a kid, dancing to that song, then to be able, fast forward 15, 16 years later to creative directing for that artist, creating imagery, it was just a dream come true, man.
So I'm glad you brought up Mariah, because that puts you talked about like dancers now having a platform that wasn't there before. With her New Year's performance, that puts you in a new spotlight in the news. And we're in the day and age of like fans being crazy about stuff. Did the Lambs come after you with that whole situation?
Mariah's Lambs didn't come after me. That whole situation was a nightmare. Yeah, it was a nightmare because, Mariah recently came out and just, talked about her bipolarism, and that was a big factor in that New Year's Eve performance. And I never talked about that. That's crazy. I held that in for a while. They put the blame on everybody except for what the real reason was.
Right.
And it was because of that bipolar state. She wasn't in a great space. And her management at the time was a shit show. And they were just mismanaging her. And, I would, always in her ear, like, Em, you gotta get rid of these people that they don't have your best interests at heart, yada, yada, yada. Before we went on stage that day, the manager was like, you make sure you keep your eye on her. And I'm like, right before we walk up to go on stage, in front of millions and millions of people,
right?
I just did what I did, and I don't think the Lambs were out to get me because they know that I was always trying to protect her and make her look her best possible. I'm a visionary, and that visual and is something that I stand by. I'm not going to allow anyone to be able to talk about my work because how much I put into it. Yeah, I didn't get the backlash. I think she got the backlash for her management trying to pin that on me.
Right.
And no, they didn't. A lot of, some people, fans are crazy, but it did affect me. It did affect me, even though I had a plethora of work after that. I was contracted to work with Beyoncé for the Grammys right after that New Year's show. So my contract had ended with MC, and they put out that, that we're parting ways, what made it look like I was fired.
Right.
Which, it's just, and, people were asking me for comments, and I wouldn't comment on it because it's just like, I'm okay. I'm okay with my life. I'm okay with my experience with her and what I gave her. I accomplished what I needed to accomplish with her. And that experience allowed me to walk away from show business and start my dream, realizing being there and giving my all to someone and someone else's company and someone else's brand, and to be thrown to the side like that, or made out to be like I'm this villain, or created this show that was a disaster, when it was all her management and her medical issues,
Yeah. Yeah, and it was weird seeing that all play out, because it's just weird to see somebody that in the news, period, and you're reading things or insinuations or things implied about them. You're like, no, I know that wasn't the case. Yeah. I know that that's not what happened. And then just like I said, in this day and age where people are so ready to cancel folks for whatever reason, and knowing how PR works, and it's like they gotta point a finger at somebody, and it can't be the client. We gotta find a reason for this, because if the other reason came out, that opens up a whole new can of worms for us to deal with. Because at that point, she had made the announcement, and it was in a positive light for her, about what she had been dealing with.
Which is what I was trying to tell them.
Right.
Anyway, like be a catalyst, be someone that people can look up to, a beacon of light, instead of people pinpointing you, saying you can't sing, people saying when you're sick, when you're not in your right space and you're not balanced, like who knows what's going on? You're just not there. And me witnessing some of that stuff, it was just mismanagement, because it's like, you're keeping this thing a secret, because, I can understand, because she has kids, and maybe the thought of protective services thinking she wasn't fit to be a mother.
Right.
I get all that stuff. But I feel like they tried to foil my legacy and my dance career, my as a choreographer, as a creative director, and that put me in the space of like, oh, I'm going to go get it now. I'm going to go get my own shit. I'm going to go create my own brand, further my brand, and indulge in and fucking dive into my legacy and create what's going to stand for years to come, and like just be what Alvin Ailey or an Arthur Mitchell was, create that legacy for brown dancers, for dancers of all kind, all around the world that don't necessarily have that resources or access that I have had. So yeah, once that situation happened with MC, I was just like, I'm done with this shit, man. Like these people they're vultures, they use you for what they can. And then once the contract or the tour is up, you're out on your own, while they still have their millions of dollars, and I'm still here, a struggling artist looking for the next opportunity. This is why I'm here where I am today, opening up the Anthony Burrell Center for Dance, because I believe no one's going to take care of Anthony the way Anthony's going to take care of him. And this is next. This is why I'm here.
And that's crazy. So Mariah really gave you two moments. She gave you a full circle moment and kind of like a record scratch moment where you're like, okay, what the fuck? Like I gotta make it about me for now, and I gotta figure out what my impact in the world is gonna be. So she really gave you two things.
She did, and I'm forever grateful for her. Like I don't, even though I haven't not spoken to her since that New Year's. Yeah, I have no ill feeling toward her, because I don't think it's her.
Right, and it was clear that it wasn't about your capability. Because, like you said, immediately afterwards, you had another contract in the bag.
Yeah, and my dancers looked amazing. My production was amazing that show. She, she was just in her world, and yeah, that was such a weird show, man. Like thinking back, like I've never even looked back to watch that show.
Really?
I can't. Yeah. I can't. It's just like, it's so like cringeworthy. Like it makes my heart hurt just thinking about it. My daughter was sitting there videotaping in the audience on Times Square that day, and she just stopped videotaping, and she was like, "Daddy, I didn't know what was happening,"
So she knew like girl. Something was up.
She even knew, and yeah, it was just like it was a hard pill to swallow that New Year's Eve. Yeah. That was really hard.
Is there a moment in your career that you regret? Like, if you were to go back, is there a turn that you would have not taken or a direction you wouldn't have gone if you had the chance to change?
No, I think I'm right where I need to be. When I met Beyoncé, I had to quit my job at Alvin Ailey right before our big season in New York. And, Judith Jamison told me, Anthony, if you don't come to work on Monday, you don't have a job. And I was in London with Beyonce that next Monday performing at Wembley. So it was just like, all of these, what would be considered as misfortunes or trials, were turned into triumph. So I don't look at any of the steps or things that have happened, even if it has a negative connotation. I don't look at them as a step, or what are we calling it? A step backwards, or a mishap. I just look at them as being a part of the journey, and my destiny laying itself out. I think that it has a way of just things that just happen. And, I take the negative for the negative and just find the positive in it all, because I know that it's leading me on the path that I need to go down. And I hit that bump in the road, but eventually I'm still on that path, on that road, to that plan A. So no regrets.
Who's the hardest to work for? Mariah, Beyonce, or Dance Moms?
Dance Moms. That shit was crazy. It was like I got paid the least during that job, but emotionally, mentally, it was stressful because, you had to put kids in positions that would cause, parents to react in a certain way, and I wouldn't have to deal with that. It was terrible. It was terrible.
And then it's like, okay, you're dealing with one boss, maybe with Mariah or Beyonce, or maybe a couple, but to have moms everywhere, wanting you to give the best ability that you have to their child, but being so critical of what you do at the same time, I could imagine that driving people bananas.
I mean, it's just like I put myself in these positions where I've been labeled as mean, terrible, hard to work with because of my passion. Sometimes that passion can be misconstrued as like a diva or a bitchy attitude, but it's just like I'm into whatever I do 150%. Dance Moms to creative directing from Mariah Carey. So I'm giving my all in every job. And when people or parents that don't have my information or knowledge come and challenge me, I go crazy because it's just like, I've worked all my life to be where I am today. And for you to come here as a dance mom or a parent telling me my child this, my child that, it just blows my lid off.
Do you, because I mean, at this point in the game for your career, you've had a lot of different opportunities. You've acted, you've been on television, you've been all over the world and worked with
Broadway.
Everything from Alvin Ailey to Wimbledon with Beyonce. Do you ever search for yourself on like the internet to see what people are saying about you?
Maybe on Twitter.
Yeah,
because I like to engage. I like to get people riled up. Oh yeah, Anthony's a dickhead. Yep, I am a dickhead. How about you? Suck it. Like I just go on and just get people riled up to get people talking. I don't mean no harm with it. I just people are so strong behind these keyboards. And right. I just like to agitate the situation. I know it's not healthy, but when people come after me, I find some solace in responding to these people. But it's like, you probably thought I would never see this, but here I am. Yeah. Sometimes I search,
Yeah, I thought the one lesson I was told was never read the comments on like features about you or when something happens and it's made public.
I don't believe in that because I feel like that's how we learn about ourselves. We learn our audience. We learn our demographic. My life and my world is dependent on the customer, the consumer. So for myself and my work, it's important for me to understand what consumers are saying, what consumers are discussing, whether it's good or bad.
For Black and Abroad, we did an interview recently, and we talked about how we were wary of like investors and venture capitalists if we couldn't maintain what Black and Abroad was. And people were sharing that article, and I saw the article posted on Facebook, and I started reading the comments, and most stuff was cool. People were like, yes, we want Black businesses to maintain their authenticity. But there was one person, he was like, no, I'm adamantly against everything that they've stated in this article. How dare they? And I was just like, I was a little taken aback by it. I had, There was another instance. I had written an article for Huffington Post, and it was called "Black Men, You Need to Leave America." It was an article about like taking a solo trip as a Black man and like self-care, and people went in on me about that article. So it was very weird to have people discuss you and not know you.
But it's like that's what art is. You know, when you're an artist, you're subjected to all those, you know, thoughts, commentary, and like it evokes emotion and expression from everybody. So I just accept it and take it for what it is. And if it's necessary for me to, you know, take action on, then I'll take heed. I'll listen. You know, I listen to everything. I'm open to all forms of criticism because I feel like that's the only way we all grow is by, you know, allowing yourself to see where the problem is. Okay, I can recognize that, and then maybe tweaking some things. Yeah, I'm open to all forms of critiques and criticism.
So, looking back on your long, illustrious career, what do you think was the thing that separated you from other dancers?
The thing that separated me from other dancers was my technical ability. Being a classically trained dancer and coming from Alvin Ailey, going into the commercial dance world, you know, going straight to hip hop. Like I wasn't just a one-dimensional dancer. Like in a concert tour, I was always featured soloist with the artist, always had a solo in the middle of a concert tour. So that's what kept me different or made me special, was my classical training.
Can dance be taught, or is it technique that's taught?
Technique is taught. You can't teach people how to dance.
Yeah, so it has to be something in you.
Yeah.
You got to have a base to work.
It's innate, something that just can't be, you know, dance can't be taught. People can teach you how to dance, of course, teach you steps, but people that live it, love it, exude it, it's just something so special. It's like the Holy Ghost in church. You know, you be like, "Oh, why is she shaking so much?" You know, it's just like you just can't. You don't know what it is, but you can recognize it. You know, and that it thing can't be taught.
So tell us what you got going on with Breaking Barriers and ABCD.
Well, with Anthony Burrell Center for Dance, I'm opening up the doors to the studio October 15th for the community, for everyone. You know, we will have adult classes, open classes, classes for kids 2 to 72. You know, anybody that wants to come dance and learn the true art form of dance.
The technique, though, not
the true technique
right.
of dance. Anthony Burrell Center for Dance is the place. You know, Atlanta has been growing rapidly in the last couple of years in the art and music world. And I think it's a perfect time for Anthony Burrell Center for Dance to make his mark here. You know, there's a huge commercial hip-hop dance world. But as far as technically classical training, Atlanta Ballet is probably the only place. And that's not geared for our community, as in the African-American community. I plan to be what Alvin Ailey or Debbie Allen is to the South.
Yeah, so, and then Atlanta is new to you, so you're fresh to the city.
I'm a fish out of water, man. I don't know how to get to the corner store without asking for directions, brother. So it's definitely new. I don't have any family, not too many friends here, but it's my passion, what drove me here, what led me here. Yeah, I'm still in disbelief every morning. I wake up to come to this building, and I'm like, I have a business here, and, you know, and it's scary. You know, I got my first bill today, and my cable bill, and it was like $500. It made me realize, like, I got to get to working. His bills are coming in, and there's no revenue yet.
But it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming. Let the people know where they can find out more about the Anthony Burrell Center for Dance and what you have going on in general. Where can they find you online?
Okay. Well, if you're not here at Anthony Burrell Center for Dance, Southeast Atlanta, 765 Moreland Avenue, you can also catch me on Instagram at Anthony Burrell, AnthonyBurrell, or my website, Anthony Burrell Center for Dance, Breaking Barriers AB, BreakingBarriersAB. Breaking Barriers, AB.org. Sorry about that. I didn't get into much about Breaking Barriers, but it's a summer dance intensive that I go around the country inspiring and instilling my passion and love for dance. I hope to be in a dance class near you anywhere. You know, if you're not here, you're not at the right place. You know, this is the new dance haven, the new premier dance center of Atlanta. And I hope to see some of you all here.
One more question before I let you go. What's the call you're waiting on? Like if someone called you right now and it's not someone you work with and was like, I need you to do a show for me. I need you to put this together. Who is the dream call that you haven't gotten yet, that you're waiting for?
I'm waiting for that funder to call and say, I got that $1 million for your building. Yeah,
that's who you're waiting for. Mm-hmm. Anthony, thank you so much for chatting it up with me. I'm hyped to see what you do with ABCD. You guys, again, thank you for listening. Of course, if you want to support, you can do so by subscribing on wherever you listen to podcasts. You can check out the show on UNGENTRIFIEDpodcast.com and on Instagram and Twitter at UNGENTRIFIEDpod. You can find me, your host, on Instagram and Twitter as well at Kent W. Johnson. If you want to support with a coin or something that folds, you can do that as well on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Kent W. Johnson. Anthony, again, thank you for chatting it up with me.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.